A few weeks ago on one of these videos, a commenter named Jesse Kessler made a point that I want to address directly. He said that a flow-down clause isn't binding unless the prime contract and AIA documents are attached as exhibits. He's right. And that same logic, the idea that a document can reference something without actually incorporating it, applies directly to additional insured status, which is what we're covering today. Being named as an additional insured on a certificate of insurance means something, but it doesn't mean what most contractors thinks it means. Stick with me, because if you've ever been handed a certificate requirement you didn't fully understand, this one is worth getting to the very end. Let's start with what additional insured status actually is. When a GC requires a subcontractor to name them as additional insured on a sub's GL policy, they're asking for access to the sub's coverage. The idea is this: if something the sub does causes a claim that involves the GC, the sub's policy will respond on behalf of both parties. The GC gets a defense and coverage under the sub's policy, not just under their own. That's the purpose. The question is whether it actually works that way. Here's where Jesse Kessler's point comes back in. A certificate of insurance is a summary document. It lists the parties, the limits, and the coverages in place as of the date it was issued. And yes, it can list anyone as additional insured, but what actually creates the additional insured coverage is an endorsement on the policy. An endorsement is a modification to the policy form. It adds a specific provision. Without that endorsement, there is no additional insured coverage, regardless of what the certificate says. The certificate can represent anything. What matters is whether the endorsement is actually on the policy and whether it matches what the contract requires. Most contractors, and honestly some agents, have never verified whether the endorsement is actually there. They see the certificate checkbox and assume it's done. It's not. Now let's talk about which endorsement, because this is where most subs are missing something. There are two primary additional insured endorsement forms you'll deal with in construction. A CG 2010 covers ongoing operations. It applies while the subcontractor is actively working on the project. This is the more common form and the one most people are thinking of when they say additional insured. A CG 2037 covers completed operations. It applies to claims that arise after the work is finished, a defect that surfaces 6 months after the job closes, a failure that shows up after the building opens. And most construction contracts that require additional insured status requires both forms. Most subcontractors only carry the CG 2010, a certificate that lists additional insured without specifying endorsement form numbers doesn't tell you which coverage is actually in place. Ask for the form number before the job starts. One more requirement that's showing up in most contracts now: primary and non-contributory. Primary means the subcontractor's GL policy responds before the GC's own policy. Non-contributory means the GC's policy is not required to contribute at all. Their policy stays out of it. Without this language in the endorsement, a claim can trigger a dispute between the sub's carrier and the GC's carrier over which policy responds and how much each one pays. That dispute takes time and costs money, and lawyers are not cheap. Regardless of who wins, it's going to cost. Primary and non-contributory require specific endorsement language, not a certificate checkbox. If the contract requires it, confirm the endorsement actually includes it. Here's what to verify before any job that requires additional insured status. First, confirm the endorsement is actually on the policy. Ask for the endorsement form number. A certificate without a form number is incomplete information. Second, confirm whether the contract requires ongoing operations coverage, completed operations coverage, or both. CG 2010 for ongoing, CG 2037 for completed. Most contracts require both. Third, confirm whether the contract requires primary and non-contributory language and whether the endorsement actually includes it. Tell your agent before the job starts, not after a claim is filed. If you have a contract in front of you with an additional insured requirement, and you want to confirm your policy actually satisfies it, that's a 15-minute conversation. Book directly at the link in the description or reach out directly by calling us at 318-423-7445 or go to callwatley.com. Next week, we're covering completed operations, the coverage that protects you after the job is done and you've already left the site. That one drops next Tuesday. See you then.